Praise be to you, sheep and disciples, and God, our Creator, Redeemer, and life-giving Spirit. Amen. Did you ever know anyone who was blind from birth? Yeah? Although I didn't know him, the very first person that I ever knew about who was blind from birth was little Stevie Wonder. He used to be called Little Stevie Wonder. And I can still remember the thrill of being a kid growing up in Detroit, Michigan, and hearing one of Motown's own, because little Stevie was born in Saginaw, which was just about an hour outside of Detroit, and he was on TV wailing with this harmonica. I think every kid in every city and suburb around the country wanted to play the harmonica when they heard his classic fingertips. When he started going, clap your hands just a little bit louder, I wanted to be him. I still have a few harmonicas from when I pretended that I could play. Stevie Wonder may not have been gifted with sight, but he sure had and continues to have an incredible ear, a heart and a mind tuned to melody and song. But even so, with all of his talent and all of his fame, I wouldn't want to be born blind. Imagine what it would be like to be totally blind from birth. You've never been able to see anything. No parents cooing over you like you're such a beautiful baby. No puzzled older brother or sister wondering why you had to show up when they were getting all the attention. You've never seen the sky or the sun, never seen beautiful flowers or amazing pets, never seen all of this beautiful creation of God's, because you were born in total darkness. It's not easy being born blind, and I think it's difficult for us seeing people to just understand how hard it must be. Even if I ask you right now to close your eyes for the rest of this sermon or for the rest of this service, you could do so because you'd know that in 10 minutes or 30 minutes you could open your eyes and see again. But it wasn't that way for the blind man in our gospel. In his day, there was no chance at all of him seeing. There was no Braille alphabet, let alone schools for the blind or a national association for the blind. You were simply blind and helpless, and that was that. Now picture this man in our gospel. There he is sitting by the roadside, probably waiting for somebody to throw him alms, a few coins, so he can get something to eat. And as he sits there, Jesus and the disciples walk by, and they say, Rabbi, who sinned? This man or his parents that he was born blind? Somebody must have sinned, they thought, because why else would he be blind? But Jesus said God doesn't work that way. It was neither this man nor his parents who sinned. He was born blind so that God's works of mercy and healing might be shown in him. And after that, Jesus reached down on the ground, he took some mud, he spit on it, he rubbed it, he anointed, says the Greek, the man's eyes, and he said, go to Siloam and wash. And he did, and he could see. Amazing. And the rest of our lesson becomes this incredible reaction to what happens when God's works become manifest in our lives. The first reaction is from the skeptics, his neighbors. They question the man's identity. Isn't this the man who used to sit and beg? Some of them said, yes, it's him. But others said, no, not really, but it's like him. Haven't we experienced people like that in our own lives who are skeptical about who we are when we've changed something about ourselves? That can't be so-and-so, they say at the high school reunion. She used to be so fat. Is it really her? Or try and tell your friends that you stopped drinking or smoking. No way, they exclaim. change, like shedding excess pounds or giving up cigarettes or alcohol, some people's reaction is doubtful at best. It's almost like they can't wait for you to fail so that you can become the same old person that they knew, and then it won't shine a light on how much they themselves need to change. But then the so-called neighbors do what the man's neighbors did. They probe and they try to figure out what made us change. What did you use? What diet? Did you go to AA? Were you hypnotized? How did you do it? That's what the formerly blind man's neighbors wanted to know. How did you see? And so he tells a story. The man called Jesus took some mud, he spit on it, put it on my eye, said, "Go to Siloam and wash." I did, and I can see. As soon as he shared his stories, the neighbors wanted to get hold of Jesus. They liked this idea that somebody could do something so miraculous. And they said, "Where is he?" The blind man didn't know. The next reaction comes from the religious leaders. And sadly, the first thing the religious folks did was to put down the healing, because for them, healing could only occur on given days and in particular and prescribed ways. It certainly could not happen on the Sabbath. That was a no-no. "How did you receive your sight?" they asked him. And the man shared a story. "This man can't be from God," they said about Jesus, "because he healed on the Sabbath." But others said, "How can a sinner do things like this?" And there was a conflict between them. There was conflict between those religious leaders because for some of them, what they had been taught didn't match to what their experience was. And I'm wondering, did that ever happen to you? Where you had been taught something that you just don't agree with anymore because it doesn't jive with what your heart is saying? You know, some of us were taught that gay and lesbian people are evil and abominations to the Lord. But if you know any GLBT folks, and you do, or if you're gay yourself, you begin to question, how can it be? How can it be that someone who is so loving and compassionate, so Christ-like, so just like you and me, can be despised by God for who they are?